Now let's start with the background services in the Angular. Here let me create new component in the upper folder of the directive ng-gc, and I'm going to say services background things. Not exactly background things over here, but the utilities who are going to have the heavy load. Let me draw it pictorially so you can understand very well. So consider that this is my database, HTTP database somewhere on the web, and this is my, what you can say, one component, and this component is communicating with the database. So I can say web app over one of the cloud, Google Cloud or AWS, whichever you prefer, right? And here I can say this is nothing but your component, one Angular component, right? Pardon my spellings. So components, consider that your component is speaking with the web app, right? Component is speaking with the web app by means of, here you can say, HTTP. By means of HTTP, we are going to see this thing, how your component will come, or how web or HTTP will come into the picture in the Angular. You might have written this web app in any of the platform, Node, Java, ASP, whatever it is, and you have open few REST services by means of this web app, right? Okay, so component is communicating with the web app, right? And unfortunately, what you can say, this web server is down by certain reasons that can happen, physical need that can happen, right? In that case, your component is going to, what you can say, hang forever. Why? Because your response is not coming back, and component is continuously waiting for, what you can say, the response. So your component would be going to get freeze until and unless if you have written the timeout functionality on the web, or forever, right? So this movement, right, or this thing should be shifted to another guy, and that is nothing but the service background component, right, which will deal with the component, right? It is a background module which will deal with the component and do heavy lifting like this, going to the web, coming back from the web, and updating your, what you can say, component template accordingly. So this wouldn't be happening in this case. So your service is injected into the component. So there is a dependency injection. So this component is dependent on the service, right? This component is dependent on the service, and this service will go to the web, fetch the response, parse the JSON, and give it to your component. That would be a typical flow in this case, right? No, component, Angular starts from the component. In the HTML you are writing component, and component is dependent on the service. At that time service get loaded, right? It's like our Spring. So beans are going to be loaded at the first time. Then if you need something in the at request mapping, that is going to be loaded per request, like that thing. Okay, now let me write this thing, or I'll continue in the next video this thing.